He's universally known for smoking the best weed in the world, ducking and dodging Gretchen Gillies' debt collection attempts, and not giving too many fucks about your feelings. Up next is the cannabis industry's very own Kaiser Brose, the longest continuously operating retailer in the world. Jason Beck, what do you got for us today, my man?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Oh, man, I hope everybody's ready for this. It's just about to get real, all right? Because we're going to go to Michigan, you guys. Are you guys ready to go? It's going to be a long adventure. It's about 3,000 miles away from here. But the feds investigate an ex-House Speaker Johnson for bribery in pot licensing. That's right. FBI agents and a federal grand jury have spent more than 2 years investigating whether former Michigan House Speaker Rick Johnson and others received bribes in return for awarding state licenses to operate medical marijuana facilities. And just note that in here, it does have an H in the word marijuana. The Detroit News has learned the probe has potential to raise new questions about financial influences over Lansing's, the state's ethics policies, while the GOP controlled the legislature, and how Michigan's burgeoning marijuana industry was shaped. 3 sources familiar with the probe described a prolonged, ongoing investigation involving Johnson's nearly 2 years' tenure as chairman of the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. The sources declined to be identified because they weren't authorized to speak about the secret federal investigation. Sounds like something else is going on. Johnson 70, who oversaw the board from May 2017 through April 2019, has not been charged with any wrongdoing. The existence of the federal investigation was confirmed in court records obtained by the news and that are marked in quotes, United States of America versus Johnson Rick V, and provide a partial roadmap of the probe since September of 2020. Describing search warrants, grand jury subpoenas targeting Johnson's bank records, and the seizure of Johnson's cell phone, along with a computer from his wife, Janice. The records are exhibits in a lawsuit filed against Johnson and his wife for failure to pay legal work in conjunction with the federal criminal investigation. The case filed back in 2021 includes legal bills from Grand Rapids criminal defense attorney Christopher Koch, who billed Johnson for talking to a federal prosecutor about Johnson's bank records from 2016 to 2020 that were subpoenaed by a grand jury. The period covers his time leading the medical marijuana licensing panel. Brian Breslin, who managed appointments for former Governor Rick Snyder when Johnson was appointed to the head of the Medical Marijuana Board back in 2017, also confirmed to the news that he was questioned by the FBI agent about Johnson. In a quote, he says, "I'm not going any further than that," Breslin said in a phone interview. An FBI spokeswoman declined to comment, but a source familiar with the FBI investigation confirmed to the news the questioning of Breslin was related to bribery allegations made against Johnson during his time overseeing the state's marijuana board. Johnson did not respond to 4 calls seeking comment over 6 days, and Snyder appointed Johnson, a Republican from Leroy, as chairman of the 5-member licensing board in May of 2017, despite concerns about Johnson's prior work as a lobbyist. The licensing board had the power to decide which business got into the developing marijuana industry first. As chairman, Johnson had the power to influence the board's agenda and dictate which marijuana grower and retail license applications were considered, and when in 2018 Michigan voters approved a ballot proposal to allow for the use and sale of cannabis throughout the state. The Johnson probe. The 5-member medical marijuana licensing board approved about 150 licenses for business in growing, processing, selling, transporting, and testing in June of 2018 through April of 2019, when its last meeting was held. Under state law, the board had the power to help the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs set rules for the marijuana industry and decide whether to grant or deny applications for licenses. Applicants were supposed to be disqualified if they had a recent felony, if they weren't residents of Michigan, and if they had failed to demonstrate the ability to maintain adequate insurance. The board was also able to consider the person's finances, experience, integrity, moral character, and reputation according to the law. In March of 2019, less than 3 months into his first term, Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued an executive order abolishing the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board and creating a state agency to oversee the regulation on both medical and recreational cannabis. The executive, in a quote, this executive order will eliminate inefficiencies that have made it difficult to meet the needs of Michigan's medical marijuana patients, Whitmer said at the time. Or maybe that was just for them to cover up that $40 million that they took from the veterans. But nonetheless, by the following year, federal investigators were examining Johnson and his wife, Janice. According to court documents, Rick and Janice Johnson signed an agreement to hire the law firm Seacrest, Wardy, Lynch, Hampton, Truex, and Morley in August of 2020, according to a lawsuit that referenced United States versus Johnson. In the 2021 suit by the law firm ongoing, the couple included a summary of the firm's work, the records of their investigators' view of a secret federal grand jury investigation, and describe evidence seized by federal investigators, and mention Bank of America records from 2016 to 2020, a period that covers the months preceding Johnson's appointment to the Medical Marijuana Board and his tenure as chairman. The billing records attached to the lawsuit also confirm that the grand jury has issued subpoenas and shows how the lawyer responded to the criminal investigation as far back as September of 2020. That month, the lawyer indicated investigators had seized Rick Johnson's cell phone and a computer tower belonging to Janice Johnson, allegedly. These are multiple references to government subpoenas. There are also references to O'Connor and apparent references to Assistant U.S. Attorney Christopher O'Connor, a federal prosecutor in Grand Rapids who handles corruption. That's right. He is the lead U.S. attorney in the federal bribery and extortion case against former Representative Larry Inman, a Republican from Williamsburg in Grand Traverse County. Investigations abound. And the grand jury investigation involving Johnson is the fourth state federal criminal case underway involving Republicans at the top levels of state government in Lansing. That includes a state attorney general investigation of for the political fundraising accounts of two Republican former legislative leaders, ex-House Speaker Lee Chatfield of Levering, and ex-Senate Majority Leader Mike Shariki of Cake Lake. Kimberly Bush, a spokeswoman for the Attorney General, and Dana Nessel declined to say this week whether Nessel's office was involved in investigating of Johnson. And this thing just goes on and on and on and on and on. But coming up, Lansing, the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board held its last meeting back in 2019. During the meeting, Rick Johnson became emotional, thanking the state employees and medical marijuana entrepreneurs for their work in the market. In a quote, he says, "The biggest reason I'm here is it really has helped two members of my family," Johnson said. "Keep doing what you're doing because those are the people that need to be helped." Johnson registered to lobby again in Michigan back in March of 2020 after the licensing board had ending, according to state disclosures. And man, this just sounds like all kinds of craziness going on in Michigan. What do y'all have to say about this?
Shocking.